Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going over UFC London Brady versus Edwards. First things first, make sure you smash that like button, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There's a Stats and Stacks podcast, a little bit of a different location today, but that's not going to stop us from putting out the pod, especially when we're putting out winners, baby. Last week was awesome. I know one of our dogs didn't come through, but I we put AJ Cunningham. What did you expect? It was plus 500. It was worth a shot. Carlos Vera made our whole night. We bet Carlos Vera at plus 700 and then Carlos Vera by sub at like plus 1200. The combination just set it off, and the locks were hitting. It was a very, very, very profitable night. I believe we went 11 to 13 on picks and bets. So it was a super, super fun night. Parlay last week's fun into another good week this week at UFC London. I'll be frank with you, I seem to struggle with the cards where they're traveling over in Australia, over in London, like stuff like this, where there's time zone changes over in the China cards. It's not my forte. I, I I can't get them right to save my life, but I also think I'm long overdue to get some of these right. So it is what it is. You do the research. You can't factor in things like travel and illness and injuries that aren't going to be mentioned. It is what it is. You just do your due diligence with the fight tape. You look at the stats, you look at the numbers, you look at the common opponents, and you go from there. So hopefully everything pans out this week. We were hot last week. We're just looking to continue it. So let's start with the very first fight of the night. And like AJ Cunningham and a very big dog, I think we're going to take another one to start the night. We have Kawe Fernandez as a plus 350 dog going up against Guram Kutaladze at minus 450. Over 2.5 minus 175, under 2.5 at plus 145. So obviously, if you're going to take a plus 325 dog, you kind of have to justify it. It's not really so much a bet on Kawe, it's more of a fade on Guram. I like Guram a lot. I think Guram is a very, very good fighter, and I think Guram could be a top five, top 10 guy about 3 to 4 years ago. He's starting to fade. I know that he's only 33 years old, but in fight years, he's much older. He had a whole career in kickboxing and such prior to MMA. So it's kind of like Alex Pereira, where he's had so many fights prior to. It's a lot going on here, and it's starting to wear on him. He's 33 years old. He has very good striking. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, has very good grappling. He has a good level of competition fighting Demiris Magulov, Jordan Vucenic, Elves Brenner, even his debut against Mateusz Gamrot. His wrestling's okay. We saw it a lot in his last fight. He does everything well. He's a good grappler. He's a good striker. He has decent power. He's a good wrestler. He's literally good every single place. He generally has good cardio, but that cardio is starting to fade the older he gets. He generally is pretty durable, but his durability is starting to fade the older he gets. He's just simply slowing down and getting chinny with age. Um, Father Time is getting the best of him. On the other side, we have Kawe Fernandez, who I don't think is that great, but he does train at a good camp. He's over at Nova União, over where like Jose Aldo and such train. He has good striking. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, has really good Jiu-Jitsu, a very active guard when he's on bottom. I don't like that he has 62% takedown defense, but he did fight D1 Diakase, and D1 Diakase can take down damn near anyone. I don't like how low he keeps his hands. He's asking to get knocked out. But at the same breath, that makes it very, very unpredictable where his strikes are coming from. And he has a ton of power. He loves to throw kicks to the body, he loves to throw kicks to the head. His cardio leaves a little to be desired. It's not great. He can go 15 minutes, but he definitely slows down in his fights as well. But he seems to be pretty durable, unlike Arum is now. He's never been finished. I've never even seen him rock, to be honest with you. He's a pretty good, dangerous fighter, kind of like how Charles Oliveira is scary when you're on the ground and he's scary with a ton of power on the feet. Exact same thing for Kawe Fernandez. In their primes, do I think Gurum's the better striker and the better wrestler? Absolutely. And I think Guram could dictate where this fight goes. Can Guram do it now at 33 when he's starting to slow down? I think for a little. I don't know if he'll be able to do it for a full 15 minutes. I think eventually he gets caught, and eventually Fernandez is probably going to KO him. And honestly, I keep saying eventually. It might even be quick. We saw Gurham drop against Elves Brenner. And then ultimately KO'd. We saw him dropped in round one in his last fight against Vucinic. I do think he's starting to fade. He's starting to spend a lot of time hanging out with Ilya Taporia and Marab and enjoying the Georgian lifestyle of being champion. And I don't think he's going to be champ at 155. I think his time came and went. And I think this is just father. I'm essentially betting father time. So the pick is going to be Gurham. He's the better fighter. I'm not touching him at minus 450. The bet's going to be Kawe Fernandez at plus 350. And again, the over 2.5 is minus 175, under 2.5 at plus 145. I wouldn't mind taking a stab at that under 2.5 either, to be honest with you. Fernandez keeps his hands low and Gurham keeps getting chin checked. So the pick is gonna be Gurham to bet Kawe and take a look at that under if you'd like to not pick a side. If you don't trust plus 325. On the other side, we have Nathan Fletcher at minus 125 going up against Kalen Lawfren at plus 100. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 200. Under 2.5 at plus 160. You have a lot of these Irish fighters that get a lot of just cheer over in the British side. I don't think Loughran's going to get that here, considering they're in Britain and he's fighting an actual Brit. So let's start with the dog in Kylan, and his line is actually closing in. The last time I checked, he was like minus 102, so that's not even necessarily dog money anymore. It's essentially going to go off as a pick 'em. Loughran has good striking. He has okay wrestling. He throws a ton of volume. His BJJ's okay. He's 28 years old, so he's essentially in his prime. He's fought a good level of competition, fighting Jake Hadley and Taylor Lapilus. Like I think those are good fighters. He has 100% takedown defense. Granted, again, he fought Taylor Lapilus, Angel Pacheco, Jake Hadley. None of those guys can wrestle at all. And I think Jake's the only one that even shot a takedown on him. He's a short, stocky guy. He's very, very durable. He's never been knocked out. And he does have good cardio as well. He loves to just pressure forward, wing a whole bunch of big punches at you. He's very difficult to get down to the ground, and he makes you fight his pace. He pressures you, and he throws a ton of volume and sometimes wears on you and puts you out. The problem is with that style, he's extremely hittable as well. He does not believe in head movement. He doesn't even think it's optional. He thinks that it's stupid, and he just keeps his head on the center line. He thinks he is invincible, and thus far it's fine. He has not been knocked out, but he's losing decisions to Jake Hadley. He's losing decisions to Taylor Lapilus because they have this thing called a jab, and he can get jabbed to death. He does not move his head. He throws a ton of volume, but he can get out volumed. He has that pale skin, and he does not wear damage well. Not a good look. All in all, he's a pretty decent fighter. He just has to have the correct style matchup. On the other side, you have Nathan Fletcher, and I would ideally think that this is a good style matchup for Cullen, but this is actually a rematch, and Fletcher won the first fight. Fletcher's 27 years old, so he's also just entering his prime. He has really good jiu-jitsu, but that's about it. His wrestling's just okay. It's not great. His striking is essentially non-existent. It's not good at all. His level of competition is not good at all. The best win he has is against Lockerin, and again, that was an amateur fight. That was not a full 15 minutes, and that's very important to note because Fletcher's cardio is not great. I have seen him fade in more than one fight. When they did fight each other and he ultimately won in that amateur fight, that was back in 2018. That was 7 years ago. Has he improved more than Loughran? No, I don't think so. I think Loughran has improved his jiu-jitsu. I think Loughran has improved his wrestling. Meanwhile, Fletcher has gotten better at jiu-jitsu, but he was already better. He still can't wrestle that well, and he can't strike to save his life. So I don't know, man. He's also kind of slightly chinny. I've seen him chin checked in multiple fights, and his one career professional loss is by KO against a guy that's like 9-7. So I don't know, man. A short, stocky guy knocked him out before. I could definitely see him doing it again. And again, his cardio is not great. He does slow down in the third round in almost all of his fights. Lockerin does not. At the end of the day, it's dog or pass. I'm going to go ahead and pick Lockerin, and I'm going to end up betting Lockerin as well. But I don't like that it's becoming a pick. I'm bet him while he still has any semblance of dog money. Next fight of the night, we have the bane in my existence, Pooja Tomar, the Wushu master, at plus 150, going up against Shauna Mama B. Bannon. Good Lord, at minus 175. Over 2.5 is minus 550. Under 2.5 at plus 400. Kill me now. I don't want to watch this fight. I don't want to bet this fight. It killed me to do fight tape on this fight. These are literally the two worst 115 pounders in the UFC going against each other. So I, you can't. I just don't fucking know. Let's start with Pooja Tomar. She's the only Indian female fighter in the UFC, so the UFC has a reason to push her. But outside of just her nationality, her ethnicity, she ain't it. Her striking's okay. She has a okay power, I suppose, for 115. Her striking's all right, but she's a counter striker. She throws pretty decent volume for being a counter striker, more volume than most counter strikers. But at the end of the day, she can't wrestle. She has zero jujitsu whatsoever. She backs up the entire fight, which is not a good optive for the judges. She just counters with volume. She does the sidekick over and over and over and over. She just sidekicks you and sidekicks you. It's not hurting you. Occasionally, it'll set you off balance and it looks like a knockdown, but it was really just because you were throwing something at you through the sidekick and it literally just knocked you off balance. It did not hurt you whatsoever. And to make matters worse, she does have a tendency to slow down in her fights. So I don't know. She's not good at all. She literally backs up and counters you with a combination and then throws sidekicks. That is all she does. On the other side, we have Shauna Bannon, who is pretty one dimensional as well. She has a family lineage of striking, but there's always the ugly duckling in the family. And in regards to her talent, in the octagon, she's the ugly duckling. She's not good at all. She's very pillow fisted, zero power whatsoever. She does march forward. She'll have a 6 inch reach advantage in this matchup. And just like Pooja, who loves to throw side kicks, Shauna likes to throw this little side karate kick to get into range. So it's just going to be a battle of side kicks. She will have the crowd behind her, which is nice. Again, a lot of these Irish fighters, the Scottish fighters, they have the British fandom with them. So she'll have the crowd behind her in this sidekick affair. And she will try to mix in wrestling from time to time because she has an okay ground game. It's not good, it's not bad, but it's better than Pooja's. The problem is she can't really wrestle. So even if she tries to do it, that's just going to look Pooja look better stuffing the takedown. So what you're really going to have is a girl with better cardio. Her volume is all right. It's about the same as Pooja's. Uh, I don't know. She's not as one dimensional, and she has better cardio, and she'll have the crowd behind her, and she'll be moving forward, which looks good. So ultimately, I'm going to side with Shauna Bannon. Do I want to bet her at minus 175? Fuck no. She should be minus 175 over nobody on the roster. Does that make me bet Pooja Tomar? Fuck no. Pooja Tomar's awful. She fucked me over one time, and I'd like to see her do it again. Because I cannot bet her. I just refuse to bet her. She is not good. She literally just sidekicks. So the pick will be Shannon. The bet would be Shannon because you can't touch this over. The over is minus 550. So you're betting Shannon and clenching your cheeks the entire time because this fight is going to be ass. Next fight of the night, we have one that is, I wouldn't say it's trash. It's just someone's going to be taking out the trash here, and his name is Christian Leroy Duncan. He's a minus 600 favor. Now, him being minus 600 is trash. He's fighting Andrei Puliev. Puliev is plus 425 in this matchup. And that says a lot. He's over 2.5 is plus 130, under 2.5 at minus 170. And let's start with Andre. Andre's not good. He's only in the UFC because if you are an underdog on Contender Series and you win your fight, you automatically get a contract to the UFC. It is a weird rule. I don't think it should be a thing because these guys ultimately and girls just get killed once they make it to the big time. And that kind of looks like what's going to happen here. Andre's making his UFC debut. He has zero good wins whatsoever. His best win is his Contender Series win, and that was against Liam Anderson, who is actually from around where I am in New York. But although I want to support my Western New York guys, he ain't good. He ain't very good, to be honest with you. Huliev has what looks like good jiu-jitsu on the regional scene. When you actually do some digging, he's only like a blue or purple belt. It's not very accredited whatsoever. His wrestling, he's Russian, but he can't wrestle. He's a striker, and his striking, it ain't great. He has a body kick that's pretty nice. That's it. It's like watching Puja 2.0. Doing the fight tape here was kind of hard for a for a portion of it. He throws a body kick and a jab. That is all he has on the feet. He does not hit hard at all. He has a ton of submissions on his record, but again, he's like a blue belt. The reason he's getting so many wins is because all the guys he's fighting are, let's just go through every single one. 1-3, 3-7, 1-2. He fought a guy that was 7-2 had a winning record, and guess what? He lost. He then fought someone that was 1-0. He fought someone that was 4-0 with a decent record, and he lost. Got knocked out round one. He then fought someone that was 4-2, 1-0, 2-1, 38-21, and then Liam Anderson on the Contender Series. So he has fought god awful competition, and that's why it looks like he has a nice, active, good jiu-jitsu game. No, he's just fighting guys that are atrocious. And he backs up the entire time, which again is not good visually for the judges. On the other side, we have the hometown guy in CLD. The UFC definitely believes in Christian Leroy Duncan. They want CLD to be a thing. So what do? Because he's coming off of back-to-back losses. You feed him, Andre. Or sorry, they're not back-to-back. He lost to Armin Petrosian, and then and his basically his debut because the Dusko fight didn't last long. And then he lost to RoboCop in his last fight. And RoboCop's a good fighter. RoboCop's a top 10 guy. So they're like, maybe he's not ready for that. We're in Britain. Let's get him back on the winning track. Let's give him the worst middleweight on the roster. And they've tried to do that. They gave him Claudio Ribeiro. They gave him Dennis Tululian. Those guys are trash, and he handled them accordingly. The reason I'm going to bet CLD, and I'm probably going to bet CLD round two. When you look at his wins in the UFC, round two against Claudio Ribeiro, round two against Dennis Tululian, and then his other win against Dusko. Again, he had a knee injury, so he didn't have a chance. Every single one of his UFC wins are finished in round two. And he has some on the regional scene as well. That reason is because he is very creative in the octagon. He throws a whole bunch of weird shit and he basically just plays around the entire time. He plays with his food. People talk about like Manel Kopp that kind of fights to the level of his competition and plays around in there, hands behind his back. I saw CLD turn his back to Armin Petrosian and run at him backwards. Like he just does weird shit in there. His jiu-jitsu is not great. It's all right. His striking is very good. It's just he gets a little too creative at times. But again, he's the Brit and he is in Great Britain. UFC wants him to win this fight. He has decent power. He has good cardio. 64% takedown defense isn't great. But again, a lot of that was RoboCop. And when he does get taken down, he generally has a good get up game. And the fact that Robocop kept taking him down and couldn't submit him is nice to see because Robocop is very good on the ground. So he has very good defensive jujitsu. If Robocop can't sub you, I don't think Andre's going to sub him. And if Andre is forced to stand with him, Andre's been knocked out multiple times. CLD has a ton of power, is the much better striker, the better wrestler. He's just better everywhere. That's why he's minus 600. Do I want to bet him at minus 600? No. I'd like to touch that under 2.5. Minus 170, I'm not a fan of, so I might just parlay if fight doesn't go the distance. This thing ain't going 15 minutes, so I'm ultimately going to pick CLD. I'll bet the fight not to go the distance, and I might have a sprinkle with that round two, as he does play with his food, and every single one of his UFC wins are in round two. Maybe the trend continues. Next fight of the night, we have Mick Parkin and Marcin Tybura as a straight pick'em. Initially, the line flipped. We had Marcin Tybura as the favorite. It was a pick'em for a long time, and now the hometown Brit Mick Parkin is the favorite. Marcin Tybura was plus 100 when I last checked. The over/under is set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 150. Under 2.5 at plus 115. Let's start with Marcin Tybura. Tybura is honestly the much better fighter. He just has a few difficulties, one being that he's 39 years old. That is not exactly a spring chicken. His striking's okay. His wrestling's okay. His jiu-jitsu, he's a black belt, but I would just still rate it as okay. His cardio's good. He is the definition of a generalist, which is very, very good at heavyweight. A lot of these heavyweights don't know how to wrestle. They have no idea how to even spell jiu-jitsu. He can do all of it. He's not great at it, but if you're terrible and he's okay at it, it makes him look really good. He generally has very good fight IQ. He's taking down Denise. He is outlasting Alexander Romanov. He's choking out Tai Tuivasa. He's doing everything he has to do there. Again, I've seen him strike and look good. I've seen him wrestle and look good. He generally does everything well. And when you look at his losses, Sergey Spivak is a top 10 guy. He shouldn't have got armbarred there, but and he has a win over Sergey Spivak. Um, Alexander Volkov is a top 5 guy. Augusta Sakai just hits very, very hard. Shamil at that point was a top 10 guy. Derek Lewis is a top 10 guy. Fabricio Verdum is a former champion. Like all of these guys are literally top 10 heavyweight talent. That's who he's losing to. He has 77% takedown defense, and people will say that he's chinny because he's been knocked out multiple times. But Derek Lewis hits like a truck, and that was in the third round. Shamil was pretty decent back in the day. Augusta Sakai hits extremely hard. Alexander Volkov, he went to decision. Tom Aspinall is the current champ, and then he got caught in an arm by Sergey. So, I mean, yeah, he lost, and he's been knocked out, but I wouldn't call him chinny. It's heavyweight. Anyone can knock out anyone. He's just physically slow. I'm not a fan of that. But that's okay because Mick Parkin's physically slow. Everyone's betting Mick Parkin because it's in Great Britain and because he's training partners with the champion Tom Aspinall. Just because you train with the champ doesn't mean you are the champ. He is 29 years old, so he's very green as a heavyweight. His striking is okay. His wrestling, I thought was okay, but it didn't look great in the Kyle Machado fight, to be honest with you. Yes, he got 3 takedowns. Um, well, I guess his wrestling looked okay. His jiu-jitsu did not. He was very, very sloppy on the ground, as was Machado. He's rocking a 50% takedown defense, and that's not good because Machado can't wrestle. Lucas Bresky can't wrestle. Muhammad Usman used to wrestle, but did not shoot a takedown there. Jamal Pogues used to wrestle, did not shoot a takedown in their fight. Eduardo Neves is the one that took him down twice. The fight only lasted 2 minutes, and he got taken down twice. That's not a good look. It's gonna be in Britain again, so he's the hometown guy. He'll have the crowd behind him, but his level of competition is not good. I just mentioned them: Usman, Bresky, Machado, Pogues. Good Lord, they're awful. Like these are, and then on the regional scene, the guys were 6-9, 7-7, 2-3, 2-17, 1-10. Terrible. He can be chin checked. He has not been knocked out yet, but I have seen him wobbled on more than one occasion. Um, I do like that he is fighting Marcin, who his main training partner has fought, and Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall got a quick win. I'm sure he's trying to give him pointers, but he cannot do the same stuff that Tom Aspinall does. Tom Aspinall uses athleticism and bum rushed Marcin, and that was that. Mick can't do that at all. He's very pillow fisted. I know he's coming off of a knockout. He is not a knockout artist by any means. If this is predominantly a stand up affair, I think that it's going to be very 50-50, and the judges are going to rob Marcin Tybura blind. And I think that McParkin wins a split decision. If Tybura initiates wrestling, and he usually has good game plans. The only times I've seen Mick wrestle, I've seen Mick tired. Mick can go a good 15 minutes, but if you force him to grapple, it does fuck with his cardio. And if things are getting fucked with in regards to his cardio, I think Marcin takes over. And in a year where all of the undefeated prospects and Peyton Talbot and Musasa, and it seems like every single week we see an undefeated prospect lose. He's 10-0. Is he next? I was gonna stay away from it, but now that Tybura is a dog, yeah, I think he is. So the pick is gonna be Marcin Tybura. The bet's gonna be Marcin Tybura. Speaking of undefeated, We have Loner Kavanaugh at minus 300 going up against Felipe Dos Santos at plus 250. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 260. Under 2.5 at plus 200. Let's start with Felipe Dos Anjos, because in Felipe Dos Santos, we can break him down real quickly because he's a shoot to box fighter. And basically, all the shoot to box fighters fight exactly the same. They are good on the feet, but they're very plodding, very flat-footed, and throw everything with power. They march forward. Hands are generally kind of low. Very active jujitsu when it does hit the ground, and their wrestling's a little questionable. And that's Felipe to a T. He's 24 years old. He'll have a 3-inch reach advantage in this matchup. His striking, good. His jujitsu, good. His volume, good. His cardio, good. His wrestling. Ooh, I don't think bad does it justice. 14% takedown defense. And that's not like, oh, well, he fought a former D1 wrestler. No. He got taken down 9 times by a Spanish kickboxer in Victor Altamirano. He got taken down 2 times and held down for the entire round against kickboxer Andre Lima. And now Cop didn't shoot a takedown, didn't need to, just beat his ass on the feet. And everyone thought he was the shit because he was able to stand with Cop for 15 minutes. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy. But like we said, Cop likes to play with his food. He was out there having fun, doing whatever he wanted to do out there. Did he look all right taking it on a few days' notice? Absolutely. Does Ian Gary talk this guy up nonstop? Absolutely. Is this guy UFC caliber? That's to be determined. Is he going to win this fight? I don't know, because although he puts on that constant pressure, I have seen him chin checked. He got dropped in the Victor Altamirano fight. He got dropped in the Manel Cop fight. You can't hurt this guy. He's never been knocked out, but he's been put on his ass multiple times. If you want to sit there and leave your chin out there, I think Liner Kavanaugh might be the last flyweight I want hitting me. He might be the only one I know that hits harder than like the hardest flyweight punchers I've ever seen. He might hit harder than Figgy, to be quite honest with you. This dude can crack. Not only can he crack, he's 25 years old. He's going to have the crowd behind him. Not only does he hit hard, he's very, very quick. He's very, very technical. I've seen him use some wrestling on the regional scene, so he has it in his back pocket if he needs it. His jujitsu's all right. He's undefeated. The problem I have with this kid is that he's a little low volume. He's very cocky. I actually am not a Kavanaugh fan. Will I bet him in this fight? Yeah, I think this is a tailor-made matchup for him. The UFC wants him to win. They're kind of considering Felipe a busted prospect. You can't get taken down 9 times. I think they're Altamirano. And winning his only win in the UFC is a very controversial split decision. Nobody thought he won that fight. So technically, he should be 0-3 in the UFC, and the UFC selling on him. Kavanaugh, meanwhile, is undefeated. He's a good-looking kid. He's very cocky, very marketable, and he gets KOs. He knocks people's heads off. And his last fight against Ochoa was very, very close, and that does concern me because Ochoa fights kind of exactly like Felipe, but I think Ochoa's better than Felipe. I think he fought the better version already and won a unanimous decision. Now he's fighting a lesser version in front of his hometown crowd. Yeah, I think this is set up fight for Kavanaugh. So the pick is going to be Kavanaugh. The bet's going to be Kavanaugh, and I kind of like him by KO. So I'm kind of staring at that under 2.5 a little bit. I think he might get this done in one round. If not, he could even mix in the wrestling if he needs to go that route with a 14% takedown defense. If that doesn't work, he has the judges behind him because he's the Brit in Britain. So he has all the ways to win. He can take him down, he can screw him over. He can knock him out. Ultimately, that's who we're going to have our money on. The pick is Kavanaugh. Bet is Kavanaugh. Next fight of the night is one I keep going back and forth with, and I'm not too sure what to do. We have Chris Taco Padilla at plus 100 going up against Jai Herbert at minus 120. Over 2.5, minus 135. Under 2.5 at plus 105. Let's start with Chris Padilla because every podcast is going to say the exact same thing, and they're all telling the truth. He's not that good. He is 2-0 in the UFC, and nobody is really sure how. He's a generalist. He is okay striking. He is okay jujitsu. He is okay wrestling, but whenever you give this guy a step up in competition, he fails. He has 15-6. It's not a shiny record at all. He is literally just a generalist that has been overachieving in the UFC. But again, to his credit, he's not bad anywhere. He's really not. But I've seen him submitted. I've seen him get decisioned. I've seen him get KO'd. And it's always against someone when he steps up. His cardio, he can go 15 minutes. He'll slow down just a touch, but it'll go hard 15 minutes. He prefers to counter strike. So his volume leaves a little to be desired. It's not good. It's not bad. He is literally the definition of a generalist. On the other side, we have Jai Herbert, who is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. He's definitely going to have the crowd behind him. He's going to be the better striker in this matchup. Hell, he might hit harder in this matchup, probably do more damage. He has pretty decent cardio, probably a cardio advantage in this matchup. Um, there's just a lot of things I don't like about Jai Herbert. He has all the talent in the world. And as he's a main training partner of Leon Edwards and he fights exactly like him, he's just the great value version of Leon Edwards. He literally fights to him like a T in regards to his volume, not high. He does not throw a lot, but when he throws, it's with some decent power. His takedown defense, though, 59%, that's not a good number. Anything sub 70% scares me. This dude's sub 60%. So that's something to look at. His chin is the other thing to look at. This dude gets knocked out a lot. Granted, they're the good guys. I mean, Hinata Moicano subbed him. Hinata Moicano just fought for the title. Ilya Taporia knocked him out. Ilya Taporia is the current champion at 145. Francisco Trinaldo knocked him out. Trinaldo's good, but he was also like 38 at the time. Reese McKee knocked him out in 2 minutes. Yikes. Reese McKee does not hit hard. And that was in the first round. That's very, very, very concerning. That's where, I mean, he has 5 career losses, and he's been finished in 4 of them, and he's been knocked out in 3 of them. He's so hit or miss. You don't know what version of Jai Herbert you're getting. When he fought Trinaldo, he looked really, really good, and he just got caught. When he fought Moicano, he looked awful. He just got taken down, controlled, ultimately submitted. When he fought Kama Worthy, he did what he was supposed to do. It's Kama Worthy's trash. When he fought Taporia, he looked good round one. But then he got taken down, he got back up, and then he got knocked out viciously. Kyle Nelson, he did what he was supposed to do, but that fight was a lot closer than people remember. And Padilla kind of reminds me of Kyle Nelson to an extent, a counter striker that hits kind of hard, that has a little bit of wrestling in his back pocket. It's kind of like the Kyle Nelson fight, and he won that. The Ludovic Klein fight, he basically won. He just lost a point. Faraz Ziem is when he needs to win, and he lost. Ronaldo Bedoya is when he needs to win, and he won. So it's like I don't know what to do with Jai Herbert. I never want to bet Jai Herbert as a favorite because he's very unpredictable. And the things you need most in MMA is good wrestling, good cardio, and durability. This dude has bad wrestling. He has okay cardio. He has bad durability. Not trustworthy. Do I want to bet Taco, the guy that keeps overachieving? No. So you have overachiever versus unpredictable. It's dog or pass 110%. I'm kind of flirting with this under though, the under 2.5 at plus 105. I think that's the way you bet it. So I'll go ahead and I'll pick Chris Taco Padilla just because I think it's dog or pass. But the bet's probably going to be the under 2.5 because Jai can get knocked out or submitted at any point. Taco can get knocked out or submitted at any point. Just take the under and just hope for violence. Next fight of the night, we have Morgan Charrier at minus 170 going against Nathaniel Wood at plus 145. Over 2.5 minus 260, under 2.5 at plus 180. Let's start with Morgan. He's someone I like a lot. Initially, I thought he was pretty decent. And then the more you watch him and the more you look at his record, he's good. He's the most underrated fighter in the weight class, in my opinion, between him and Chepe, who ironically enough fought. 20-10 is not a shiny record. But when you go back and you look at his schedule, it's insane prior to the UFC. He fought Jordan Vucinic. He fought Paul Hughes. Uh, who else did he fight prior to the UFC? He fought some pretty decent ones. I'm trying to think of people you see. William Gomes is now in the UFC. He fought him and beat him on the regional scene. Like he fought some pretty decent guys before coming to the UFC. And the other main thing with him is that he has 30 career fights, 31 career fights, and he's gone to split decision 9 times. The dude is always in close fights. Win or lose, this dude is going to fight you close. He is like the Chiefs of this year. Whoever he plays, it's going to be close. If they're playing the Raiders, it's going to be close. If they're playing the Bills, it's going to be close. Whoever they play, it's going to be close, and that is what Morgan does because he's good everywhere. He's not a generalist. If there's a notch above generalist, that's what he is. He's not okay striking, okay jujitsu. He has good striking. He has good jujitsu. He has good wrestling. He has an 83% takedown defense. He has good cardio. He has good power. He's a sniper out there. And that's the issue. His volume is what makes everything close. He doesn't throw a ton. It's not super low volume like Jay Herbert throwing 2 significant strikes per minute, but it ain't high. It's at three, even. Average, I'd probably say, is like 3.5 significant strikes per minute. So he goes just a touch under, and that's why he keeps going to these damn split decisions. But he has been a lot more aggressive as of late. He got a knockout over Gabriel Miranda, split loss to Chepe, got a knockout over Zucchini. He's out there and he's mentioning how he needs to be more aggressive, which is good. We need to physically hear him say it. And I think that aggression is going to carry over against Nathaniel Wood. I love Nathaniel Wood. I think he's a really good fighter. I love how he's always talking about his mental health and helping other fighters. However, what I don't like about Nathaniel Wood is that he's at 145. He ain't a featherweight. He is a bantamweight. He said it is impossible for him to make 135. He kills himself to do it. And I believe him. Some guys, it's just the way they're built. DC should not be a light heavyweight, but he was, and he was a light heavyweight champion. Certain guys, it's just very tough for the way they carry their weight. And Nathaniel Wood is one of those guys per him. He's also very good. He's going to have the crowd behind him. He's going to be 31 years old, so he's in his prime. He has good striking. He has okay jujitsu. He has okay wrestling. He likes a lot of trips. But I will say Morgan's the better wrestler and the better jujitsu practitioner here. The striking is very 50-50, but Wood throws a lot more volume out there. Nathaniel Wood has good cardio. He has 72% takedown defense, so he's not easy to get down to the ground. Here's the problem I have with Nathaniel Wood, and the reason I'm saying I like him at bantamweight. He has effectively fought one, two, three, four, 5 fights at featherweight. Okay. In those 5 fights, Charles Rosa, he absolutely dominated. You're like, maybe he is a featherweight. Maybe that's all he needed. And guess again. Charles Jourdain, did he get the win? Yes. Did he get cracked and knocked down? Yes. He almost got knocked out by Charles Jourdain. His next fight, Andre Fili, he got cracked in the first round and almost got knocked out. Hamid Naimov, he got cracked in the first round and almost got knocked out. Daniel Pineda, he got cracked in the first round and almost got knocked out. In 4 of his 5 fights at featherweight, this dude's face has hit the canvas. Not good. Not good at all. Here's the difference here. He's able to go back and beat old man Daniel Pineda and out cardio him. He's able to go in and take down Andre Fili, who kind of is a fish out of water on the ground. Charles Jourdain, he was able to just keep tripping with the same trip takedown like 7 times. Charles Jourdain is like the worst wrestler. Had no idea what was going on. And actually, Charles Jourdain's the second worst wrestler. The worst wrestler was Charles Rosa, and he just took him down and dominated him as well. So yeah, he's able to go out there and he's able to get wins, and he just looks very good at bantamweight. I don't think featherweight he's long for. He's just too little. He's just too tiny. Nothing against him. All the talent in the world, but he ain't a featherweight. So I'm going to take the actual featherweight who's on an aggressive streak in Morgan. The pick is going to be Morgan. The bet's going to be Morgan in a lot of parlays. And honestly, I think I'm going to bet Morgan by sub. One of these times, Nathaniel ain't getting up, and he does panic wrestle after he gets knocked down. He panic wrestles. And I think Morgan's going to snatch his neck when he power wrestles. I think he's going to get dropped. He's going to panic wrestle against Morgan, and Morgan is part of the Gilly Goose Gang. He's going to jump Gilly, and he's going to grab a dart. He's going to do something. He's going to snatch that neck and take it home. So the pick is Morgan. The bet is Morgan, and I'll also have money on Morgan by sub. I think it's Club and Sub City. Next fight of the night, we have honestly probably the guy I like most on the card in Jordan Vucinic at minus 420, though, going up against Chris Duncan at plus 315. Over under set at 2.5, over 2.5, and under 2.5, both a straight pick 'em at minus 115. Now, I'm going to hype this guy up. I'm going to talk about Jordan Vucinic. Jordan is good everywhere. Jordan is 29 years old. He's going to have a 2 inch reach advantage, and he's massive. And I have absolutely no idea. We talked about Nathaniel Wood. How did he make why is he up at 145? I'm asking, how the fuck did Jordan Vucinic make 145? The dude's absolutely massive. He's a unit at 155. He should have never been down at 145. He will have the crowd behind him as the hometown guy. He has really good jiu-jitsu. He has good striking. He has a ton of power. He has okay wrestling. He's durable as all hell. He's got a great level of competition. And when I'm saying like prior to the UFC for Morgan, he Jordan also fought Paul Hughes. He has a win over Paul Hughes. He actually fought Paul Hughes twice. He has a win over Morgan Sharia, and you'll never guess by split decision. Yeah, man, he has a loss to Gurham in his very first fight, but he took that fight on short notice. And that was that was only his second fight up at 155. So I'll cut the guy a lot of slack. And it was a very, very close fight. It could have gone either way. I ultimately thought Gurham won, but it was very, very close. At the end of the day, he has a 2 inch reach advantage. And in this matchup, he's the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's the better wrestler. And I think it's pretty 50-50 on the feet. But he is a lot more durable. On the other side, we have Chris Duncan, who I'm not fond of at all. He left and has been training over at ATT. He's 31 years old. He has pretty decent striking. He has pretty decent power. That's about it. His jiu-jitsu's not great. I know he has a guillotine win in his last fight against Balagioki. That's an indictment on Balagioki's grappling, not anything to write home about Chris's. He slows down in his fights. He doesn't have great cardio. He's very chinny. He gets rocked and or knocked out all the fucking time, basically every single fight. His takedown defense is terrible. 33% takedown defense. That is not a good number. Um, and he always fights overseas. He will not have the crowd behind him as a Scottish guy this time because he is Scottish in Britain fighting a Brit. So he's fucked. I don't have to spend a lot of time on it. I think this is a setup fight for Jordan. Chris Duncan is a name. Jordan's going to have the crowd. Jordan has the talent. Jordan's going to get the win. The pick is Vucinic. The bet is Vucinic. And it's probably him by sub, but Chris Duncan's so goddamn chinny, he might accidentally knock him out. Next fight of the night's another one I've gone back and forth with. We have Meatball Molly McCann at plus 155 going up against Alexia Vainara at minus 180. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 225. Under 2.5 at plus 185. Hear me out. Let's start with Alexia. Main reason I'm thinking about fading her is because she's 27, making her debut on short notice. She's going to have a 5 inch reach advantage, but that's every Molly Meatball fight. She's a main training partner for Amanda Ribas. She has good wrestling. She has really good jiu-jitsu. Her striking isn't great, but she's very aggressive. And people are all saying, well, her striking looks a lot improved. Does it? Does it really? When you really go back and you watch that Contender Series fight, she threw an overhand right, she threw a spinning back kick to the body, and she threw a leg kick for 15 minutes. That's all she threw. Please go back, rewatch that fight. Every single person that is saying that her striking looks improved, she has an overhand right, she has a spinning back kick to the body, and she has a leg kick. That is it. Literally it. But all the rest of her fights, she does look very good. When she uses her wrestling, it is good. When she uses her jiu-jitsu, it is good. She is a black belt. She does pressure forward. She's very aggressive. Her only loss is to a UFC caliber girl in Bruno Brazil. And that was 6 years ago. She was 21 at the time. So no shame there. Good experience on her. She throws decent volume. Her cardio has looked good and bad. So just be cognizant of that with her taking the fight on short notice. She is just a uber aggressive forward pressure fighter with good jiu-jitsu and good wrestling, and her striking's not great at all. I don't care what anyone says, her striking's not good, but she hits decently hard. She's very aggressive and physical. On the other side, we have Meatball. Meatball's older. She's 34 years old. She will have the crowd behind her more than anyone in this entire card, even more than Leon. She has good striking. She has a much improved jiu-jitsu. It's good. Her wrestling, good offensively, defensively, 39%, not a great number. Her cardio, good. Very, very, very good cardio. That's the best part of her game. And she's also a pressure fighter. She does nothing but move forward. She throws a ton of volume. And the problems I have with her is that she's very durable, but she's weak to the body. We saw Bruna Brazil exploit that a ton in her last fight. She got dropped twice by body shots. And again, Alexia throws that spinning back kick to the body. Alexia throws a lot of leg kicks, and Molly does not believe in chucking leg kicks. She doesn't do it. So that's also not a good look. However, we just said the same shit about Ankalaev and Pereira. Ankalaev doesn't chuck leg kicks. Pereira's going to kick his leg off. It didn't work. You know why? Because he pressured him. He said, I'm not going to chuck leg kicks. I'm going to throw leg kicks back and pressure you the entire time. How are you going to leg kick me if I'm in your face? That's how Meatball fights. These girls are going to meet in the middle, and one of them is going to fight very, very uncharacteristically by backing up. I don't know who it's going to be. And for that reason, with the crowd behind Molly, if she's the one that's continuing the pressure forward, Luxia is not comfortable fighting backwards. She can't throw her spinning back kick. She cannot throw her leg kicks going backwards. It's going to make her wrestle. Will she take down Meatball? Probably. She probably will. But Meatball's grappling has gotten better. As long as she can get back up and Alexia is forced to keep grappling, that's going to tire her out on short notice. I've seen Dayanara gas out before. That, in fact, her Bruna Brazil, her only loss, she gassed out. She had to keep wrestling, and she got finished in the third round. Is Molly going to keep throwing that stupid spinning back elbow? Probably. But as long as she's pressuring and as long as she's getting up when she got, not if she gets taken down, when she gets taken down, if she keeps getting up, Linara will slow down. And I think we have Linara winning round one. I think we have Meatball winning round three, and the swing round is going to be round two. And we are in Great Britain with the biggest crowd behind Meatball Molly McCann. Dog or pass. The pick is going to be Dainara. She should win this fight, but it's her UFC debut. I think the crowd is going to impact the judges, and it's going to impact Dainara to not wrestle. When she fought Dana White Contender Series, she took the girl down and let her up because she wanted to have fun out there and strike and be aggressive. If she takes down Molly and lets her up, Molly's going to keep pressuring her, and the crowd's going to be oohing and ahhing every single fight, every single strike she lands. So that's not a good game plan against Molly here. And Dainara is 27 years old in her debut. I think she's going to get go. I think she's going to get baited into the wrong fight style, and for that reason, I'm taking the 13 fight veteran in the UFC. The pick is going to be Dainara. The bet is going to be Meatball Molly, and more exclusively Meatball by split plus 800. I will have some money on. Next fight of the night, another one I will have some money on. We have Gunnar Nelson at minus 130 going up against Kevin Holland at plus 110. Over 2.5 plus 125, under 2.5 at minus 165. Let's start with the trailblazer, Kevin Holland. A lot of people on Holland because he's fighting at welterweight. That ain't enough for me. He's going to have an 11-inch reach advantage. He's 32 years old. He has good striking. He has good jiu-jitsu. He has some decent power. He's much better at 170. I will give him that. He is a 175 pounder. For the love of God, stop going up to 185 unless you're fighting someone that only knows how to strike. If you fight a grappler at 185, you will lose, Kevin Holland. Just fight strikers. That's what you need to do. He has good cardio, he has good volume, but he has 53% takedown defense. Do not fight grapplers, fight strikers, and you will get some wins. He has 1-4 in his last five. And his four losses, grapplers, delight. He lost to Roman Leeds. He lost to Rainer de Ritter. And actually, I'm sorry, Michael Page and Jack Della outstruck him. So he has two problems. Michael Venom Page was a very elusive karate guy. Jack Della, that split decision could have went either way. It was very, very close. But then he also lost to Stephen Thompson, who is a very elusive karate guy. And then his other losses are to grapplers. RDR submitted him. Roman, it was a rib injury. That was a little weird. And then Hamzat took him down and submitted him. So he's either getting sub or he's losing the karate style fighters. Literally, that's what he's doing. On the other side, we have Gunnar Nelson, who is from Britain. He will have the crowd behind him. He has world class jujitsu. He has good wrestling. His fighting, his striking style, karate. He is a karate style striker. Literally everything that Kevin Holland struggles with, Gunnar Nelson is. Gunnar Nelson is a karate style striker with world class grappling and okay wrestling. His cardio is okay. The problem I have with Nelson is that he's 36 years old and he doesn't fight. He's the most inactive fighter I've ever seen in my life. People were talking about he could potentially be a title challenger. Yeah, maybe if he fought once or twice a year. He literally fights every 2 years. Once every 2 years is what he does. Um, he fought 2 years ago, Brian Barberino. Before that, he fought in 2022, so only 1 year with Sato. Before that, he fought 3 years before that with Gilbert Burns. Before that, Leon Edwards. I don't know why he fought twice in 1 year. He was feeling frisky that time. But before that, 2 years ago against Santiago Ponzinibbio. Like he averages two. Oh my God, 2016 he fought once. Damian Maya in 2015 he fought twice. 2014. Yeah, it all started right around 2016. He's fighting once every 2 years. That's what he does. His 2 years are up, so here he is in Britain, ready to fight. Do I like that? No. Do I like how small he is? No. He is notorious for going out there and saying, I will not cut weight. I think cutting weight is cheating, and I'm going to fight at my natural weight. Kevin Holland fights at 185. Gunnar Nelson should be fighting at 155. This is a huge size discrepancy. However, as Sean Brady pointed out, they're all the same size when they're on their back. And if Kevin Holland can't stop the takedown, I'm thinking maybe he's going to be better at welterweight. And then I watched Tim Means take him down 3 times. Yeah. Gunnar Nelson does not play on the ground. He will hold you. He is position over submission, and the crowd isn't going to be booing. The ref isn't going to stand them up. We are in Gunner's hometown. Gunner's going to take him down and either sub him or just lay on top and just go about his day as if he's not even in a fight. The pig's going to be Gunnar Nelson. The bet is going to be Gunnar Nelson. Then that takes us to our co-main event of the evening. We have Carlos Ulberg going at minus 270, going against the 2 year off returning Jan Blachowicz at plus 220, over 2.5 minus 145, under 2.5 at plus 110. We'll just address the elephant in the room. Jan is 42 years old. He has not fought in 2 years coming off of injury. Red flags everywhere. This dude has red shorts, and he's literally wearing a red flag. Probably stay away from this guy. He has good striking. He has okay wrestling. He has okay jujitsu. He has okay Polish power. He's just very physically slow, which is going to happen when you're 42 years old. He has good fight IQ. He wrestles grapplers. He grapples strikers. He does everything right. He slows down when he's grappling a little bit. He does get tired. He didn't used to, but he's 42, so father time. A little chinny. He's been chin checked multiple times, so just be wary of that. He's fought a great level of competition. He's a former champion, for fuck's sake. His last two fights were Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. Two guys that just fought for a title. And he lost a split decision to Alex Pereira that I thought he won. And he lost a split draw to Magomed Ankalaev, which I thought he lost. So I guess it balances out. Yeah, man. He fought Izzy and won. And that's important to know because Izzy and Carlos Ulberg are main training partners. Carlos Ulberg, just like Izzy, is just a glory kickboxer turned MMA fighter. He's 34 years old. He has really good striking. He has good power. Um, he has a good volume. That's about it. He's rocking an 83% takedown defense, but against who? Alonzo Menafield? He can't wrestle. Dawoon Jung? He can't wrestle. Volkan Ozdemir? He can't wrestle. Uh, Ior Pretoria? He can't wrestle. Nikolai Nuragomenu? He can't wrestle. Tafan Inchkui? He can't wrestle. Fabio Sharon? He can't wrestle. Kennedy Njoku? He can't wrestle. He has not fought one wrestler his entire tenure in the UFC. And not only is he not fighting wrestlers, he's not fighting good fighters. Fabio, cut. Kennedy, at heavyweight now. Tafan, cut. Nikolai, cut. Eeyore, cut. Daun Jung, cut. Alonzo Menafield, he ain't looking great. And Volkan Ozdemir. he has been just fed by the UFC. Part of that's because he's a little bit of a celebrity. I guess he had his own version of The Bachelor over in Australia. His cardio is not great. He has slowed down in fights where he wrestled. A Vulcan fight was very, very close, a lot closer than I remember it being. Slowed down a touch. Milano Manifield was 12 seconds and get a chance. Daun Jung, I know it shows he subbed him with only 10 seconds left in the fight. That is true, but he was slowing down. It's just Daun Jung was slowing down as well. And then the notorious Kennedy Nchukwu fight, his very first fight, where he just gassed himself out, beating Kennedy's ass. Then he got tired and Kennedy knocked him out in the second round. So his cardio's not fixed. He just is kickboxing. He's a world class kickboxer, and he's been kickboxing his last 8 fights. If he has to mix in grappling, it does wear on him. He's not used to those muscles. He's a very good counter striker. And one time I did see him get taken down by Da Woon Jung. He had an urgent get up game. He wanted to get up instantly. Doesn't have good jujitsu. He just wants to get the fuck up. And he's very good against body lock takedowns. A lot of these, the Vulcan fight, the Dawoon Jung fight, they were going for like upper body stuff. You can take him down with like a single or a double, and that's basically all Jan shoots, a single and double. So that's going to be interesting to see. At the end of the day, I think Blachowicz is extremely live. Do I want to? I think he's extremely live, and I would have auto bet him 4 years ago. 42-year-old coming off injury on, I need to stay away. I know the pick is Olberg. I know the bet should be Olberg. But no, I just don't really want to do it. I really don't. I'm staring at this under 2.5 at plus 110. He probably should knock out Jan. And if Jan wins, I do think it's by decision, but there's a slight chance he chokes him out. So what I'm gonna do is pick the under 2.5. So the pick is Carlos. The bet's gonna be fuck it. Let's go old man Jan. What are we gonna do? Glover won the title off him at 42. Maybe that's just a secret number for Jan. Pick is Carlos, bet is Blachowicz. I'll pull the trigger. And that takes us to the main event of the evening. If you haven't already, smash the like, give a follower on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever there's social media. There's a Stat to Stacks podcast. We have Sean Brady at minus 170 going up against Leon Edwards at plus 145. Over under set at 4.5. Over 4.5 minus 205. Under 4.5 plus 165. Let's start with the hometown guy and Leon Rocky Edwards. Leon's 33 years old. We'll have the crowd behind him for certain. We'll have an inch and a half reach advantage here. He has really good striking. He has okay jujitsu. He has okay wrestling. 65% takedown defense, but he's fought some very good wrestlers in his career and more than once. He has good and bad cardio. I've seen it both ways, but he's very low volume. So when he's low volume like that, it kind of helps his cardio, but it kind of hurts him on the judging. But again, we're in Britain, so it is what it is. He cheats a lot. I've seen him low blow a lot of people. He grabs the cage all the fucking time. He's grabbed inside of gloves. He cheats a lot. So just be cognizant of that. And he's a little mental. In the first fight where he won the title, yeah, you're seeing the head kick here, but outside of that, he was mentally dejected in the corner. The fight where he lost the title against Bilal, he was very mentally dejected and didn't want to be there. In fights against Colby where he was winning, he was looking great and on. It's like if he's winning, he's in it and he's looking great. If he loses a round, he just shuts down, kind of like Rose style. He just gotta watch his mindset. He's not someone that's gonna. I like to say he's not someone that's gonna come back and win after losing a ton, but I guess he won the title that way. But when you really go back and you look at his title run, the Kamaru Usman win, he was losing 4 out of 5 rounds, and then he got a knockout with 1 minute left. The rematch, I thought Kamara won. I truly did. So that was a controversial decision. The Colby Covington fight, Colby didn't fight for like 4 years, came back and looked awful, and hasn't won a fight since. And then Bilal Muhammad came in and beat his ass. So isn't really that impressive of a win. He is a former champ, so I'll give him that. But I don't know. He's been mixing in his wrestling lately. I don't think he's doing that against Sean Brady either. So I don't know. On the other side, we have Sean, who's 32 years old. He's taking this fight on short notice, and I don't like that, especially because he just had a kid. Congratulations on the daughter, Sean. But I know for a fact I have a daughter and a son myself. You ain't getting any sleep at all. So the dude's already tired, and then he goes straight from no sleep into a training camp. That's tough, very, very tough. Just to fly across, oh God, to fly across the world to Great Britain. So you're tired, you're on short notice, and you're flying across the world for a main event. That's stacked. The deck is stacked against you to start. But what he does have is great jujitsu, probably best jujitsu at 170. He has good wrestling. His striking's improved. It's okay. His volume's okay. His power's okay. His level of competition's good. He lost his only career loss is to Bilal Muhammad. It's okay. I know everyone makes fun of him for getting knocked out by Bilal, but that was another one where he flew across the world. He flew to Saudi Arabia, where Bilal was training with Habib. Actually, I thought won the first round. Couldn't get the wrestling going, and then he said he felt real sick, and he looked off, to be honest with you. But I'm not making excuses. Bilal's doing his thing, and Bilal's champ. So even if he was sick or wasn't sick, he lost to the current champion. It is what it is. I will say optically, it doesn't look good when he gets hit, though. He does not like to get hit. He does not have good reactions. I've seen him not just a Bilal fight, I've seen him rock before. I've also seen him slow down in fights, and I've seen him have good cardio. I never really know which version you're getting. This is on short notice, so that does scare me. He throws combos just to get you up against the cage, and then he likes to cage wrestle. Leon's decent at defending cage grappling, but Bilal was able to exploit it. I don't know. This is a super weird fight, man. He's a wet blanket on top, though. That's the difference. People are going to say, well, Sean Brady cannot take down Leon Edwards 9 times. I agree. I don't think he can. I don't think he has to. Unlike Bilal, Bilal doesn't have a good top game. He has good jiu-jitsu, but he's just like a little sloppy, or you can get up. He's submission over position. Like Brady gets to the ground, you don't get up. The only man I saw be able to get away from Sean Brady was Gilbert, who is literally one of the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioners ever. Outside of Gilbert, I mean, other black belts like Jake Matthews could not get up. Michael Chiesa could not get up. Like you can't reverse them. You can't get up. You just get stuck. And Leon got stuck a few times against Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman's not a good grappler. Bilal, again, is a little sloppy on the ground. Sean Brady is not. He does not need 9 takedowns. You know what realistically he needs? 3. Because once he gets you down one time, he's staying on top and winning the round. And you need to win 3 rounds to win this fight. Hell, if you want to get crazy, 4. Okay? Bilal got 9. If he gets half the takedowns, if he's half the wrestler Bilal was, he wins this fight. And I think he does. I think Sean Brady wins this fight. But in regards to a bet, the former champ in his hometown being an underdog, I think they're baiting me into it. And it's not that. It's the Sean Brady. I've had kids. And you are tired. Short notice across the world. The only career loss he had, he said he did not feel well traveling across the world. Now you're doing it again on short notice. I don't like that. I can't trust that as a favorite. If he was a dog, I'd be all over Brady. If it was a pick 'em, I'd even slightly trust Brady. As a minus 170 favorite, doing the same exact thing you did that made you get your only career loss, I'd be a fool to bet that. So the pick is going to be Sean Brady, but the bet's just going to be the dog and Leon Edwards. And that's UFC London. Again, I keep struggling with these UFC cards where they're traveling. That travel gets me every fucking time. I am due to go off, and we're coming off a great week. Let's make it back to back, baby. Let's get after it. Let's win some money.